does need new ideas. Economies, markets, most of all, jobs are in turmoil. People need new opportunities. People need new resources. How are we going to find these new resources and these new ideas with the world in such flux? So this is a presentation for people who appreciate finding value in undervalued assets. What kind of assets are these? Well, how about people that are undervalued? I'm speaking specifically about our older workers, our more experienced workers. We're here to consider entrepreneurship for people in the second half of life. We call it ageless entrepreneurs. I'm Rick Terrien. I'm a lifelong entrepreneur. My new book is Ageless Startup, Startup Business at Any Age. We're launching a global nonprofit as a platform to serve and support this market. We're calling it the Center for Ageless Entrepreneurs, and there'll be links to this at the end of the presentation. So for older workers, our work life, at least post-pandemic, can be approached two ways, and both are essentially right. Glass is half empty and the glass is half full. So for the glass is half empty, we've got to deal with ageism. It's been with us for centuries. It's going to be here for a long while to come. It's ever present, but it doesn't mean it rules the roost. There are many smarter ways to get around. This is one more ism that needs to be defeated. So older workers are seen as expendable and expensive. And the problem of technology, it's a good problem and a bad problem, but in many cases it's seen as overtaking jobs that were held in traditional roles are being overtaken by these technologies. So we've got to face all of those things. While at the same time, the glass is half full. Skilled workers are in high demand everywhere. Distributed work teams are the new norm. People can work from distributed sites, join their work together, and create new solutions in ways that weren't even possible 4 or 5 years ago. And people can now focus on things that are most important to them and find markets for those. They can focus on controlling their own time and controlling their own focus on what they work on. So who are these new entrepreneurs, these new ageless entrepreneurs? Well, here's some representative numbers, and these are pre-pandemic. In the US, there's about 100 million people between 45 and 70, and they surveyed this group pre-pandemic, and about 25% said that they would like to start their own small enterprise. That's 25 million people. In any economy, that's a lot of startups. In the United States, that's the equivalent, 25 million is about the equivalent of 10 years of job growth in an economy this size. And in post-pandemic, they're measuring still and watching the numbers, it's not 25%, it's shooting straight up. And what kind of businesses are these folks starting? Are they big bet the farm gambles? Are they investor-led ventures? Those are fine as long as they're within the law, but they're generally a small part of the overall story of this. There's nothing bad with those, but it's the larger unsung story that we're talking about today that I think deserves a lot of merit and attention. So in the United States, again, pre-pandemic, there were 32 million total businesses. Of those 32 million, 25 million, it's more than 75% of the total businesses were one-person businesses. And a great majority of those people worked less than full-time. It's a perfect situation for older, more experienced workers who would like to maybe not work 40, 50, 60, 70 hours a week, would like to work on something of their own that can set themselves up as a one-person business, which we'll discuss, and enter this market. And you're with a vast majority of peers. A significant piece of the American economy is at one-person businesses. So how can these small businesses, these one-person businesses succeed in this kind of environment? mean, don't you need to reach millions of people with advertising and build these social media empires and develop millions of followers and likes? And my favorite quote about this subject is from a great business writer, Seth Godin. Seth said something that I keep above my desk and I read every day. And it says, the best way to make a hit is to build something for the smallest viable audience and make it so good that people tell their peers. That's worth repeating. The best way to make a hit is to build something for the smallest viable audience and make it so good that people tell their peers. Thank you to Seth Godin. What does this mean for older workers? Well, it means that you can get in the game and make a difference immediately. Making a difference is ageless. One-person enterprises are the new norm. You can join with partners and peers to leverage and extend your reach as a one-person business, but you need to create that one-person business and get it underway. So your position in the market, what do you bring to the story? You bring knowledge, you bring networks, you bring know-how, and you bring a deep understanding of what doesn't work. That's serious financial advantage. This is not the style of entrepreneurship that typically ends up on the covers of magazines with 20-something billionaires and hockey stick returns. This is about controlling your time and building resiliency and independence into your life, financial resiliency and economic resiliency and control over your time. It allows you to focus on communities and markets that you may have grown up with, that you love, you have a special affinity for. You can take the knowledge that you accumulated over decades and put it to work for causes that you truly believe in. There's three main tenets of ageless entrepreneurship. You want to start small, you want to start smart, and maybe most of all, you want to start right now. Let's take a look at these. To start small, you want to arm up, you want to harden up. You don't want to go at this as a sole proprietor, just as yourself. That was possible and probable in the past. In the new world, you want to get a shell around yourself. It's a defensive shell. It's also an outward-facing statement to the world and your future peers that these are the rules you have and these are the rules you play by, and that you respect other people who play by those same rules. It's a short list of things to get yourself in the game. You need banking and you need insurance, you need the credit set up. These are not hard. People do this all the time. It's just not rocket science, but you need to go through it. You need to not keep planning it and thinking about it. You need to do it. This is the time to take an action step. And you could do this in a place like the United States. You can set up an LLC for a few $100s. You have to go through the checklists and you can, there's plenty of support for helping to do that. But basically you can do it on the kitchen table for a few $100s and be ready to take the next steps. The next one is to start smart. So for me and my peers, that means finding networks that you can operate in and leverage your own skill sets, leverage them to find new partners, to find new projects, to find new opportunities, not only to bring them to you, but ones that you can see and learn about through those friends that you can organize and bring your new networks to those opportunities. This is the 21st century. You're not going to be the Lone Ranger. That's how it was. Entrepreneurship was taught to us when we were younger and growing up in my generation. But in the 21st century, it's a team approach. And you're not going to fix things on your own. Doesn't mean you set up as a corporation on your own, but you don't go into the market on your own. You associate yourself with teams, with peers, with tribes. Find your tribes, you find your markets, you find these natural affinities in the networks you build around yourself. That's the way to approach entrepreneurship in the second half of life and in this 21st century. So the third of those tenets is to start right now. I use the story of when's the best time to plant a tree. Well, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. When's the next best time to plant a tree? Today, right? We all would have been great if we would have planted something and got it going and we're underway now, but that's not the case. We're all living busy lives. We're doing other stuff. Now here's today, here's the opportunity. Tomorrow's coming quick. Plant your tree, plant your flag, and get your operation underway. You can plant it for so long and you can think about it for so long, but at a certain point you need to stop. You need to get out and you need to get in the game. You can build a runway into this new life as fast or as slow as you want. It can match your own capabilities, your own interests, your own limitations, whatever they may be, financial or however it is. But you need to start it right now and you need to get it underway and get on that ramp and get yourself in the game. So new business startups in the United States, at least, and I'm certain this is the case globally, the United States Census tracks new business filings, new business startups, and have been doing it month by month over decades. And you can see an upward slow trend going up like this. And there's little bumps up and down with market changes and news that comes and goes. And in the pandemic year, and in this year that's following it, these numbers are just straight up. There are now hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of new entrepreneurs worldwide who are new to the game, who are looking for partners, who are looking for opportunities. In this post-pandemic world, it's a new world of entrepreneurship, and ageless entrepreneurs, those of us in the second half of life, have a critical role to play based around our knowledge and our networks. One way to consider this and what the environment is you'll be working in is a concept from economics called the long tail. This was popularized by a great American writer, Chris Anderson. Chris was the editor of Wired magazine when he wrote that book. He runs the TED organization now. Great guy. The idea behind the long tail is that there's this big spike often of new products and new ideas, and it attracts millions of new customers and investors, and the world goes crazy over these new products. And over time, there's a long tail, and people assume it goes out to the death of that market. In some cases, that may be the case. But in fact, the reality is there's as much or more commerce in the long tail as there is in the spike. And this is where most of the 1- and 2-person businesses are going to live their entire lives. There's plenty of opportunity, plenty of commerce, plenty of markets, plenty of communities that need help, plenty of markets that need help in that long tail. And it's from a proven market. The history is there. There's plenty of reference points. New 1- and 2-person businesses with new approaches, new ideas can get in the game in that long tail and thrive for years. Now, the thing that most people don't say is the long tail can go both ways. So I'm meeting all kinds of people who are very interested in joining that the spike, the part of this. They've got hot ideas. They've got things that can attract significant investment and become significant products in the world. So a long tail in this case can serve as a foundry system for new businesses. So as new founders come into this system, they work their way up and they're getting ready for that spike, they can find like-minded peers within a Center for Ageless Entrepreneurs, for instance, who are interested in supporting startups of those kind, who will help with the intellectual property, who will help with the launch, the investments, and all of that. Doesn't preclude that, but most of it's going to occur down in this long tail. It's something that doesn't get a lot of attention. It's not sexy, but it is something where people have been helping and supporting communities and markets they know and love for 10,000 years. You don't need MBAs to do this. You can operate as these 1- or 2-person businesses in significant markets and make a real impact in the world. So what are the barriers to entrepreneurship? As I was researching the book, one of the things that jumped out at me was the fact that among the biggest barriers to entrepreneurship is that people don't know enough entrepreneurs, right? And it's the demographics that this is most prevalent in is young people and older people. Now, this is a great opportunity to do an intergenerational bridge, and I hope to use these organizations to do just that. But we're going to focus on ageless entrepreneurs to launch this. The other part is there's not a lot of entrepreneurship, institutionalized entrepreneurship support for these solo entrepreneurs. There are certainly wonderful incubator systems related to community colleges and local governments. There'll be incubation systems. There'll also be acceleration systems to launch, help people launch. Well, those are fine and good. There's nothing wrong with them. You learn the language, you learn the steps, you learn the protocols, learn the requirements. But what happens when you get out of those, when you graduate out of those? You're on your own. Good luck. Have a nice day. The fact of the matter is you get out of those things and you need to start selling something. You need to start sending some invoices. How does this work? How do you find those customers? How does it? Well, that's the perfect value of a peer-to-peer network. Is knowing those peers and finding new business opportunities and working with your peers to develop not only internally among yourselves, but also to band together and face the world and go and attract new projects to the networks you're building in your new aggregated group and your new ageless marketplace. One of the ways we're talking about helping support this system is, or how do people transition from paid employment to working for themselves? A name for this is phased retirement, flexible retirement. And the idea here is that older workers and their employers can mutually work out plans for people to start working less and less. Maybe they don't want to work that 40, 50, 60 hours a week any longer. They want to start to work for themselves. They want to work on individual projects based on what they've known and loved in their work life, maybe to specific places. They get the benefit of being able to have that focus while still maintaining a certain amount of support. But I think the companies get the greatest amount of benefit from this. They cut down their onboarding costs for new hires. They get to pair them up with mentors and people who will explain this and teach them the ropes of this. But I think the most important part of this is that these new entrepreneurs are going out into the world and they're meeting new people and they're hearing new ideas, they're meeting new companies, and they're seeing new ways that the world works, and they're bringing this back to their original companies. They're bringing the news back to their mothership. And this is market intelligence that these companies probably are not going to get any other way. And here they are, just by supporting and gaining the benefit from supporting their workers, they're getting new market intelligence that they would not get in any other ways. So we're launching a Center for Ageless Entrepreneurs. It's going to be nonprofit managed. I think that that's a best way of approaching this. It'll be for-profit business development inside the nonprofit. The idea is to stir the pot, get people meeting and greeting, learning about one another, building out new networks, but relying on this peer-to-peer network to attract new businesses from the outside and to create new businesses together. The URL for that is agelessentrepreneurs.org. And the book that I put together that informs some of this work, it's called Ageless Startup, Start a Business at Any Age. Inside the book, there's checklists for each of these things we're kind of touching on, the banking and the marketing and all the rest of it. That there's not a time in a presentation like this to go into it in any depth, but over time with the book, you can just go through the checklists and at your own pace. It's available on hard copy and in audio. It's on Amazon and indie books, and lots of ways to support your local independent bookstore as well. The URL for that is ageless-startup.com. And I think with that is a perfect time to say thank you and to wrap up. I appreciate this invitation. I look forward to hearing from anyone who's interested. I'm available on LinkedIn as Rick Terrien. I'd like to learn about your new enterprise. I'd like to support it any way we can, and we welcome you to the new Center for Ageless Entrepreneurs. Thank you very much. I look forward to learning more. Have a great day.